And with AI, more than anything else that I've seen in my lifetime, the impact to society is big too. So it's not just the tools and technology, it's not just the corporation. Everything is happening at scale and fast. And access to this technology is so easy right now. The impacts are high. Um, and I think something to understand is also that at the end of the day, we as humans, not only do we need to be in the driver's seat with AI, we are accountable for it.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Learn.Grow.Deploy podcast. And I'm excited for another guest this week. We have Dora Boussias. And she and I recently met on LinkedIn. She has a strong passion for helping folks like you listening to this podcast in the data and tech space. Dora, glad to have you on the show this week. How's it going?
Mark, how are you? I'm so excited to be here. You know, you just said we recently met, and yet, wow, time flies, right? It's been, well, quite a while actually. It's been months, but I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Dora, as I got to know you a little more over these past few months, learning about your journey working in tech, you've been working with a lot of different businesses. You have a vast career in a lot of different, just sectors in general. What really kind of got you into tech in general and data and just really wanting to help people, learn and implement solutions?
Wow, what got me into it? I mean, let me tell you a little bit about my mission right now, and then I'll tell you what got me into tech. That was a long time ago because I did spend 30 years in corporate life and corporate
Nice.
world. But just over the summer of 2024, so about a year ago, June of last year, I decided to make a very intentional pivot out of
Okay.
corporate into doing my own thing. And really,
Hmm.
there was two main reasons for that, Mark. One
Hmm.
was I wanted a little bit more control over my own schedule. So that was a very selfish reason. But the
Yes.
other one too is I really wanted to put all of my energy and passion into something that I'm very passionate about, and that is how do I help other people? How do I empower, especially data leaders and
Hmm.
women in tech and those high achieving professionals in our data and tech space to
Hmm.
accelerate their own growth and
Yeah.
success, be it a data and AI strategy initiative, driving transformation of the organization, or just their own careers and leadership. These are
Gotcha.
the topics that I'm very passionate about. And like I said, I spent 30 years in corporate. And even when I was in corporate, I would say the last 10 years or so of my corporate career, I
Hmm.
would give back, be a mentor for women in tech. I would speak, do podcasts, go to events as a speaker, webinars, things like that. But back to your original question, I started 30 years ago, and what got me in data and tech is because at that time I thought it would be the profession of the future. So I wanted to do something. It was a very
That's great.
practical decision.
It was. You were right. You bet right.
And
That's great.
it's been a rewarding career though.
Mhm.
And even though I've come up the ranks and I've always been very hands-on and a practitioner,
Mhm.
I've always, however, been very business minded. And for me, when I was in corporate and now in my role now, it's always, well, in corporate is like, how do I help the business, or how do I help the ultimate patient or customer, client,
Mhm.
depending the business, because I work
Mhm.
cross-functionally,
Okay.
care, finance, education, retail, insurance, and so forth. I was
Mhm.
always about how do I leverage the tech
Mhm.
and all of the great work that we do in the data and tech space that are a little
Mhm.
bit more process oriented and guidelines and technology, but to help the business, not
Got
just for
it.
the sake of the tech, to help the business move forward. And the ultimate beneficiary, really, patients, clients, depending the industry.
No, that's a great answer there. I really appreciate that. And I know the learners or the listeners to this podcast are going to love hearing that response. And for me personally, when you were talking about transitioning, right, from the corporate into doing your
Mhm.
own thing, want to take more control of your time, like, how would you describe the difference in like working for like a big enterprise or, corporate company and taking, working with their customers to kind of implementing solutions for your new clients?
Yes. So I've worked for large corporations, right? The likes of GE and Stryker and Prudential,
Mhm.
companies that had anywhere from 50 to a couple 100,000 people working for them. The
Yep.
biggest difference is the rate at which, the speed at which I can implement something.
Got
Because
it.
being in a corporation, um, things move a little bit slower, especially the
Mhm.
bigger the corporation, and there are good
Yep.
reasons for that. But also, it's a sweet spot to not really jump into building and have zero method to the madness, as I like to
Right.
say, which I
Mhm.
find sometimes that happens with some startups.
Yes.
And I'm of the mind of neither edge.
Mhm.
Don't really jump just to be fast, because fast doesn't mean that you're being thoughtful and strategic and you're doing the
Mhm.
best thing, right? But on the
Got
other hand, I don't really, appreciate being really at the other edge of way too many processes and slowing things down. So there's a sweet
Mhm.
spot there. So the biggest difference I would say, even in implementing technology, is that now
Mhm.
being an entrepreneur, it's a much smaller team, obviously. I have a little bit of help at times, right? Depend, because it's
Mhm.
been a year. It's really been a
Mhm.
year since June. So it's primarily myself, and I've
Mhm.
enlisted the help of a couple of people for
Mhm.
some work here and there. But I can make the decision. I am blessed to have the technical background. And I
Mhm.
was able in this year to figure out exactly what I want to do, research
Great.
the technology, implement the technology, roll out
Mhm.
my product, my website, other systems on that. I believe that would have taken a lot longer. We would have probably still be talking about it if I was incorporated, to be honest.
No, I love hearing that. And so, with that being said, the past year you made this huge transition. You I would say kind of went from these large companies into being, solopreneur, and you brought on some folks. Like, with all this AI hype right now going on, right? There's so many different tools, there's so many different companies out there. It's all, all kinds of cool implementations, and whether you're using a large language model or you're just using some
Mhm.
basic tools. Like, how are you using some of these tools to help you in your new ventures?
Yeah, in different ways. And I'm
Mhm.
a proponent, I'm an advocate for using the new technology.
Mhm.
Although I do want to say we need to be thoughtful about using it. And in
Mhm.
fact, a part of what I do right now, I speak about data and AI strategy, I
Okay.
advise, and I also coach people. And
Okay.
in one of the keynotes that I did not long ago, for instance, I was speaking about the risk about using these new tools, especially in generative AI, and
Okay.
what it could do to our critical thinking, or how much we trust them. So that's another conversation. We can get into it. So
Mhm.
I'm a proponent, but I'm also thoughtful what I use them for, how I use the tools. I
Okay.
definitely use different large language models for,
Mhm.
refining my methods, summarizing, give me ideas, brainstorming.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, those game shows you go on
Mhm.
sometimes, like Who Wants
Yeah.
to Be a Millionaire? Hey, you have
Right.
do you want to call your friend that kind of like knows
Right.
everything? Well,
I love it.
sometimes I look at one of the LLMs to say,
Mhm.
okay, this is my friend that phone a friend where I can, hey, what do you think about this? Let's
Right.
brainstorm, right? So
Right.
back and forth. I am, however, very intentional about when I use a large language model
Okay.
like ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever it is, whatever everybody wants to use,
Mhm.
to be very careful to not just take what it gives me, and
Mhm.
I don't end with it. I start
Right.
with it and work, and it's a framework where I'm going back and forth. I've learned that the more I push it, the harder it works for me. So
Got
it's
it.
there to
Mhm.
brainstorm. It's there sometimes to just, I might say something and that's not my strong suit. I said, okay, make this more succinct for me. So it's
Mhm.
helping with that. It's helping with summarizing, with refining. But in my world right now, I use AI tools for different reasons.
Mhm.
Definitely the back end, I'm using it for different things. I'll give you one example. As an entrepreneur, I am spending more energy and time right now into creating content than ever before,
I love
because
it.
there is no marketing department like when I was in a corporation. I wear
Very
a lot
true.
of different hats, right?
Mhm.
And so I want to make sure that if I am to help someone, how do I let them know that here's the value, here's how I can help you? So I
Yeah.
need to put the message out there. One of the things that I'm doing, for example, for that, as well as to just share with the community tips. I'm always
Gotcha.
about sharing. What can I say? Something that's of value to help someone. Maybe it's a career tip. Maybe it's
Mhm.
a leadership insight. Maybe it's an AI strategy or data governance insight.
Mhm.
So you might see, actually, I might get a clip of what we're talking. If there's something of value, I'm putting it out there.
Right.
I'm using this one tool and I'm going to share here with the community. I
Right.
really love, and this is not sponsored or anything. I
Right.
absolutely appreciate using these days Opus Clip
Right.
because it
Mhm.
allows me to create clips from different 30-minute, an hour long keynotes, talks, podcast.
Yep.
It uses AI.
Mhm.
It figures out a whole bunch of clips for me, but then it's got
Nice.
additional AI features where I can do A/B rolls and I can do intros and outros and I can do, really cool closed caption with little emojis and everything. But one of my most favorite features that they have, so
Mhm.
they should hire me. One of my most favorite features that Opus Clip has, for example, for someone like me that time is precious, is that I can use the same clip and I can schedule it to be
Ooh,
released on different platforms,
I love it.
and I can have a very tailored description and specific time per platform when it gets released. Because as you know,
It's great.
different platforms work different way. So that's one example, for instance, for how I use it as an entrepreneur.
No, I love that example, and to your point, when you're thinking about all these cool tools, that weren't even around like a year and a half, 2 years ago, it wasn't even possible, right? And so what always sticks out to me, and especially when I'm talking to folks outside the industry, is that, you know, they haven't been working in this stuff, right? A lot of the stuff is still new. So with that being said, whether you're in college, whether there's folks out there that have been in the industry a while, like how would you explain all this of what you're doing in the industry now to those who are just outside of tech and outside of AI?
How do I explain what I do right now to
Yeah,
people
how would you
outside of
explain
data
your
and
yeah,
tech?
yeah, how would you explain your work, like, or if they wanted to get into the industry in particular? Let's talk about specifically like a college student or somebody just a junior that wants to break into the industry. Like what would be your suggestion? Data, AI, analytics, things of that nature.
I see. Okay. Um, well, if somebody wants to break into the data and AI industry right now, especially someone right out of college, junior,
Mhm,
obviously you need to understand the technology. You need to spend some time, learn some tools, and just get your feet wet and really go into it. I mean, I did the same thing with different technology back when I started my career, right?
mhm,
So that's just the start, however. And I think there's
mhm,
a lot of resources for people, but they need to start thinking, do I want to do more analysis? Do I want to do more development, software development? Do I want to get more
mhm.
towards architecture, right? So that you
Right.
can then figure out, well, who do I speak to? Who do I surround myself with to learn more about that industry or about that role or
Right.
about the company that I want to get into, right? And the
Mhm,
technical part of it, and there's so many resources out there, I would say is the easier part of it.
mhm.
It's also easier because anyone can take time. The
Okay.
tools are freely free trials, downloadable right now. You can really teach yourself a
Mhm,
lot of these new technologies. A lot easier than, I'll speak for myself, when I started, for example, which I started doing COBOL on the mainframe. But
mhm,
what I would also encourage and advise younger people is right from the bat, right from the start, pay attention to who you're working with and how you communicate and understand where they're coming from. Put time into understanding the business. If you're joining a team in healthcare, well, what does this mean? How is
mhm.
working in healthcare different than someone working in finance? How does the business work? The stakeholder that you're talking to, that you're getting perhaps back the ask, the requirements, right? The need
Yep.
for to go do software development, for example, or different areas in data and tech. The one area that we're not spending as much attention as we should,
Mhm,
the people that do usually get it later in the career, is learning the business and understanding that you really have to learn to work with other people
mhm.
and help them understand the value of what we're doing. So I'll give one last tip
Okay.
for newcomers. If Get really good at what you're doing. Learn whatever the area once you figure out what you want to get into. Maybe it's analytics, maybe it's architecture development. Get really good at that. No
Okay.
one is going to take that away from you, and you can do that yourself and you can get training. but also be very intentional about strengthening what they call soft skills,
Ah,
because
key.
you're not going to work by yourself. No one is a lone island working in a little closet doing, in front of the computer like 30 years ago. And that ability to communicate in a way that is not speaking the jargon,
Hmm.
and you help the stakeholder understand how you're going to help them
Hmm.
and understand what they're asking for, so that you can go do the thing that you love, development, for instance.
Hmm.
That is a pivotal skill to develop right from the beginning.
No, I love that what you said. You're not going to work on an island. Definitely the soft skills are so key, especially in this day and age, with all the social media, especially, right? Like you mentioned creating a lot of content. People are checking that out, whether it be future employers or future partners in general that you may work with in a business. So
Mhm.
with that being said, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face now, whether they be when you were working a lot of corporate or even now as a solopreneur, just using all this different technology and just working in this new world of AI? What are some of the biggest challenges you face?
Well, one of the reasons why I'm suggesting what I suggest is because the biggest challenges is really not about the tech. I'll tell
Mhm.
you what, one of the biggest challenges is really keeping up with everything these days. Either
Gotcha.
you're in
Mhm.
corporate or you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur,
Mm.
the pace at
Yeah.
which the AI world is progressing is accelerating every day, it seems to me.
Right.
It's almost impossible to keep up with what's
Right.
happening,
Mhm.
right? So that is a challenge, and I think that's unique in the perspective that it's harder than ever before,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But the other challenge is, again, understanding what do people need and how
Mhm.
you can help them and show them the value of what you're working. When I was in corporate,
Mhm.
I worked on, I led big transformations with data and tech.
Mhm.
But I went from idea to pitching and getting funding, building the function from the ground up, and then driving the transformation on global level. There is there is deep expertise required there to know the data and tech side,
Mhm.
especially because I was working on the data governance, data management side of things. There is deep domain expertise that one needs to know. But the harder part of it was really just driving that transformation, which brings me right back to understanding who I'm helping,
Mhm.
understanding their business and their pain points, and getting good at helping them understand how I could help them, how what we're driving here, because it's a change, will help them.
Yep.
And I would say probably that's the third challenge, if I were to put it, is just change. Well, it's the pace, but it's also just change everywhere, because it's not just the technology changing. With technology changing, new businesses get born. The
Mhm.
business
True.
itself, the way it's been running always, needs to change the way of doing and thinking. So I think that's probably another one of the bigger challenges of our days.
No, I like how you said that because we've been working with a lot of different AI tools, specifically within on the cloud side of things, a lot of Google stuff. And what's wild is to me is like you said, every day. Yesterday there was a new announcement. Tomorrow there'll probably be a different announcement, right? And so with that being said, is like all this cool stuff's out there, that new is changing fast, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, what about the ethics though? You talked a little bit about ethics earlier. Like, I'm just curious, as you transition, like I said, working with a lot of large enterprises and doing more, working with other businesses as a solopreneur, like, how's the ethics working in that space? Like, what are your thoughts there?
So I think we need to be very intentional about it. When I'm talking about ethics, I'm thinking about the bias and the data, because it's there. So it's a matter of, are we intentional about managing it, about, managing it so it's not as bad as it would be otherwise, right?
Right.
How are we using it? I can even share a personal story that will show you
Great.
different aspects of it, because it's about how transparent are we?
Hmm.
How inclusive are we? Are we using a
Hmm.
data set? I've heard of use cases, for example, where the data set was used to feed the model, AI
Hmm.
model, and it was just leaving whole zip codes out, right?
Wow.
Which is not fair to the people.
Hmm.
Everything we do. So here's the thing: everything we do with these AI tools
Mhm.
it actually has a real impact back to you and me and the people listening to us,
Yep.
because it's a product or a service
Mhm.
that it influences or produces or serves at the end of that flow, or maybe it's a stepping stone to a bigger flow. At the end of the day, it ends up being some product, some service,
Yeah.
something that goes back to you and me. And with AI, more than anything else that I've seen in my lifetime, the impact to society is big too. So it's
Mhm.
not just the tools and technology, it's not just the corporation. Everything is happening at scale and fast,
Mhm.
and access to this technology is
Right.
so easy right now. The impacts are high. Um, and I think something to understand is also that at the end of the day, we as humans, not only do we need to be in the driver's seat with AI, we are accountable for it.
Absolutely.
Which means if I'm working with a generative AI, I'm not going to take it for granted. Don't believe it. It still hallucinates. And I will give you a personal story that
Mhm.
I think will hit a couple of different dimensions of what we're talking about.
Okay.
All by chance, because it was my name, I came across a blog that was probably 2 years ago now, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago.
Mhm.
It was a blog that was posted on the website of an actual business. You know, you go to the
Okay.
website, you're like, who we are, what our services, our products, here's
Mhm.
resources, blogs, and so forth. Well, that blog was talking about me, and it
Okay.
was published on this company's website. This is an
Interesting.
actual real company. They have a business analytics platform that they
Okay.
actually say, we're really good. We're using large language model. We have an we're doing work with LLMs. We're the latest and greatest. Well, that blog, when I read it, it was 60% hallucinations.
Wow.
More than likely, what happened, from what I can tell, is they fed it one of the podcasts that I did.
Mhm.
And I could tell because the blog itself was so well written and structured. It's like a dead giveaway that this
Mhm.
is very well formatted. AI has something to do with it, right?
Right.
More likely. And he was saying things like, Dora, with her expertise and her smarts and our product, totally turned around this retailer that was at the brink of bankruptcy, and now they're thriving. Dora has a PhD in data science from MIT. I do have a certification from MIT. It's not a PhD in data science.
Okay.
Dora's mentor is Joe Schmo, world renowned. He's a professor at MIT. Have you
Wow.
heard about Dora's memorable quote? There was a whole paragraph that said Dora's memorable quote, and he had a whole paragraph explaining it. Now, let me tell
Wow.
you, it was a phrase I said in the
Mhm.
podcast in one context.
Okay.
It was another phrase I said in the podcast in a different context, took the two phrases together, flipped one word, made a brand new memorable quote, and wrote a whole paragraph around it.
Mm. Wow.
People go to this company. It's a modern data analytics product company. Okay.
Okay.
You find them at the events. They usually have, I'm not going to say who it is
Right.
because I'm not sure I can trust them, even though I reached out and they apologized and they took it down from Google Index and they said it was a mistake. Then I heard later they did it to somebody else. I can't tell. It was too
Mm.
close. So I don't know if it was an honest or not mistake. But not only, if you go to a valid business's website and you read something, you would take it perhaps for granted. This is a
Mhm.
valid business. Well,
Right.
that was 60% hallucinations. And although it was all positive about me, it doesn't matter. It could be just as
The
easy
other they could be negative.
and
Right.
and and it's not true, number one.
Right.
But number two, as a business, there's a responsibility here. What do you serve out to your clients and your customers?
Absolutely.
And if that's what's happening with putting something on the website, I don't know that I can trust you with the product
True.
that you're selling me, right?
Yeah.
And the accountability, the responsibility and accountability stays with the business.
Mhm.
And there's one case that I know of that actually went to court.
Mhm.
So when we talk about ethics and responsible AI, things to think about. There was an airline
Mhm.
that a client went to that airline's website
Mhm.
to buy a ticket, and they said, "Hey, is there a bereavement policy? These tickets are expensive. This is for a funeral I have to go." The chatbot was so empathetic, really pretending because he doesn't have feelings. And they said, yes, no worries. So sorry for your loss. We have a bereavement policy. You have
Mhm.
90 days from the day you purchase the ticket to come back, fill out this form, and you get reimbursed. You get the discounted price because of bereavement policy. And the
Okay.
guy said, okay, goes to the funeral, comes back, goes back to the airline saying, okay.
Mhm.
And the airline said, oh, we're sorry. Uh, The website was wrong. We'll fix it. We don't have such a policy.
Wow.
The
Jeez.
gentleman didn't like it, took
Mm.
them to court. And in court, the airline, this was in Canada, in
Mhm.
court, the airline argued that it's not their fault because the chatbot is a legal entity. They argued the chatbot was a legal entity.
Wow.
Judge didn't buy it. The judge ruled against the airline, and
Mm.
obviously, all the implications from that, I had to pay back and all of this, which is a very real example. Again,
Mhm.
you can't just say, oh, the chatbot did it. No,
Right.
we are in the driver's seat, how we use it, what we trust from it, how much we use it to really not just be fed whatever, but use it as a tool,
Right.
right? But also in our organizations, yeah, the buck stops here, right? We are accountable
Right.
for what we put out there, not the AI technology. It's a
Wow.
great technology.
Mhm.
It's the latest and greatest. Tomorrow will be something else, even newer. We're still accountable.
Wow, I appreciate that's a wonderful story for the listeners here. I mean, that's just crazy. Like you said, accountability is key. And to your point, like the chatbot doesn't just show up by itself. Somebody had to put it there, right? So it doesn't just create itself.
And it's what you train it on, what data set,
Right.
what kind of guidelines and guardrails you put on it, right?
Mhm.
Again, that's one example, but I mean, it could be an example with bias in the data. I can
Sure.
give you more examples. I don't know if we have the time
Right.
but I can just tell you this: the bias is there in the data. So it
Mhm.
is up to every organization to
Mhm.
take the right measures, to put the right hooks in the process, to
Mhm.
pull the human in the loop and the right hooks in the process
Mhm.
to actually manage for that and
Yeah.
to have feedback loops, because if I get now even more tactical, more operational, right? It's how do you manage these models? How do you make sure that they don't drift? How do you make sure
Right.
there's feedback loops, right?
Mhm.
Um, because garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
I tend to say right now with AI, it's garbage in, garbage out at scale and
Mhm.
amplified
Mhm.
because it processes through data so fast and so much. So we need to be careful about these things.
No, that's very well said, Dora. And with that being, just expounding on that point, like where do you see how AI is going to impact different industries over the next, let's say 5 or 10 years, right? It's big boom right now, but in any particular industries that you see it really having whether it be a very positive and or negative impact,
Mark, I don't know that anybody really knows exactly
right?
what we're going to be 5 or 10 years from now,
Hmm.
especially with the change happening so rapidly, so
Yeah.
much, so fast.
Hmm.
I do believe healthcare is one of those industries that would be impacted quite a bit. And what I'm
Okay.
hoping for is that we leverage the technology, we use the technology perhaps to cure diseases,
Yeah.
and for all good things. Um, you just remind me something earlier this year in June at the World
Hmm.
Economic Forum. It was the first time that I heard on a panel Dario Amodei, he's the CEO of Anthropic.
Okay.
And he said
Hmm.
that by the end of 2026, that's
Hmm.
less than 2 years away,
Hmm.
okay, AI agents will be able to do everything at
Hmm.
PhD level that all of us, all different professions and everything that we can do, AI can do it. And then there was
Hmm.
talks about imagine having a data center with just millions of AI agents. Now,
Hmm.
not everybody thinks it's that close. Some people think
Right.
it's maybe 5 years or 10 years out, right?
Hmm. Okay.
Um, the point is, our jobs, our skills, and our lives every day. Because I know
Hmm.
people that are now working for corporate or entrepreneurs, they're retired and they're using it every day and it's changed their lives.
Right.
That's why I was talking about societal impact earlier.
Hmm.
Everything and everyone is impacted,
Mhm,
hopefully for the good. It
mhm,
is This is why we need to be responsible as well, because the technology, as powerful as it is,
Mhm.
it can be dumb too, by the way. But
Yeah.
as powerful as it is, right, we need to make sure that we use it for the right reasons, has the responsibility, accountability, and all of that. But it's changing quite fast. Again,
Mm.
healthcare, media, education,
Yeah.
every industry is going to change.
Well, Dora, look, this is wonderful conversation. Before we wrap up, any other thing you'd like to share with our listeners? Any other type of experience, or you just like them to know about you?
Oh, wow. Let me see. What can I share? Well, first of all, thank everyone for taking the time. If you're still listening, you're still here. Thank you for taking the time. I hope this is helpful.
Yep.
Helpful to everybody. I would say, I would say, um, take the time to understand what you're doing. I'm going to talk about this actually.
Okay.
I'm talking on the fly here.
Yep.
Here's what I would say. Because it's so easy to use all these generative AI tools, and we'll
Mhm.
talk a little bit about it, don't just take what it gives you, go back and forth, because I think we are at a point here where the risk is cognitive offloading and the whole atrophy that
Mhm.
the industry is talking about. Meaning, you know what calculators came out? We don't even know how to do basic math anymore.
Down.
I am at
Right.
the grocery store. It's 1960. I give, the girl $20 or the guy or whomever is behind the counter.
Mhm.
And they don't know that 1960, from 20, it's 40 cents. They really have to look at the POS machine to figure out it's 40 cents. We can't even do basic math because calculator doesn't. We
Right.
can't even, drive from here to whomever because we just depend on the GPS so much, which is good,
Right.
but it can also have a negative side of it. With generative AI, especially, the risk is
Mhm.
that we just take what it gives us, which can totally take us down the wrong road if we're not careful. But the higher risk that I want to talk about here right now is that we stop using our own critical thinking.
Mm.
As we're talking to people here, people in the workforce, people that might want to enter the workforce, people that
Mhm.
might want to transition like I did out of corporate into entrepreneurship, people that are midway or even higher in their careers.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, what's going to really help us stand out and really, for the long run, future proof our careers, our lives with this is make sure that we hang on, we hold on, and we strengthen our human qualities that
Wow.
AI doesn't have. So, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, that nuance in judgment, that stuff that AI cannot do,
Mhm.
it can pretend
Yep.
very convincingly too. But I can tell you, and I know we don't have the time to go into it, it can be very authoritatively and convincingly wrong also. So
Wow.
everybody, take it with a grain of salt. Make sure you cross-reference, especially for things that are more critical.
Mhm.
And let's not fall in the trap that we just give the keys to AI and we stop thinking for ourselves. The moment we do that,
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a sad
Yeah.
moment and a sad path for humanity. So that's what I would leave people with.
Mhm.
And happy to continue the conversation with anyone if they want to reach out.
Well, Dora, look, this was wonderful conversation. Thank you for all your insights. You have a vast amount of experience in a lot of different areas, and I know our listeners are going to love this conversation. I'll be sure to include all your links to your social media in this episode. I'll see you again in the future.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. It's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Dora.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this week's show. I hope you're subscribed. If not, be sure to hit that button. And also, be sure to follow me on social media like LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn Learning if you want to learn some cloud. And also, be sure to check out any previous episode you may have missed. See you in the next one.
Resonate.